The 49ers, they haven't won a Super Bowl since the 1994 season. It was the last championship victory for one of the most dominant organizations in all of sports. That NFL mantle now belongs to the Patriots. What New England is doing now is no different than what Carmen Policy and the 49ers were doing over 2 decades ago. It was Super Bowl or bust. I sat down with a former 49er president earlier this week.
The bar was set so high for the 49er fans that they expected, if you guys didn't make the NFC Championship game, it was considered a failure.
It was such a failure that I'll never forget. Eddie DeBartolo and I were sitting there and I'm talking. I said, Eddie, NFL Films is coming in to do our highlight film for last season. He says, what highlight film? We didn't get to the Super Bowl. Why do we have a highlight film?
Right.
And he really balked about being interviewed for the film. Ultimately, we got him to do it, but it was like it was the trophy or nothing.
Yeah. The departure of Joe Montana was ugly, and if you could go over and do that again, I'm sure there were parts of it that you would. The New England Patriots had a situation where the dissension was created partly because Jimmy Garoppolo was seen by somebody in that organization as the future, but they're playing for the present, and that's the Super Bowl. What's your take of the reported dissension that occurred between the hierarchy of that football team, and would you have played it any differently?
Well, I can't speak to what's happening behind the scenes of the Patriots organization, but I can speak to the fact that some dissension is, or shall we say strong disagreement, is definitely called for under the circumstances. Tom Brady is not aging. I mean, he's holding his own. He looks young. He plays young. When we had our situation with Joe and Steve, with Joe Montana and Steve Young, you know, Joe was hurt. He missed a season. Our doctors told us that we would have to nurse him through a season so that he'd be ready for the playoffs if we got into the playoffs. It was more questionable even than the situation with Brady. So in some ways, I understand how this dialogue within the Patriots organization got to be pretty heated. On the other hand, with the cap, you can't keep both. Just like we couldn't keep both. We could not keep Joe Montana and Steve Young, thanks to the salary cap.
Eddie did try and keep Joe at the last minute, did he?
He did everything. He was willing to do anything. He'd have kept Joe if Joe were in a wheelchair. And there's a story about how Joe Montana, by the way, he was the consummate professional during the whole process. Everybody's mad. Everybody's upset. The wives are mad. Fans are mad. People in the building are mad. Joe was calm, and he kind of would sneak into my office and say, look, I understand. You can't keep both of us. I want to go to where I want to go, though. Make a good deal for yourself and help me get a good contract. We went through, I hate to use the term, but we went through hell during the process of that trade. And I thank God the internet wasn't invented. Can you imagine internet, Twitter, and all the other factors? All we had to deal with
you would
was
have been
the media.
You would have been called the SHIT. It would have been rough.
Amen.
Yeah. Times have changed quite a bit in the Bay Area, but it's been a fun couple of weeks. Obviously, John Gruden is back with the Raiders. I'd like to get your opinion of that, because I think it had to have something to do with Las Vegas and the need to sell PSLs to get that stadium rolling. What was your take on the hiring of Gruden?
You have to remember, when I was running the 49ers, I'd get there early every morning. And I'd walk in and I'd look through that glass window of the cubicle, and there's this young guy, this blonde kid, you know, working on a computer, quality control assistant, okay? And he was there before everybody. He was there before any of the coaches, any of the trainers, the equipment guy, certainly any of the players, and before any of us. And he worked tirelessly all day long, every day.
So you saw that back then?
Oh, I saw. He was a machine.
Did he have the facial expressions back then?
He was kind of like, morning, John, how are you? You know, and he'd go, and, you know, like that, you know. Can I get your coffee?
Right.
Like that. I admired him and enjoyed him throughout the years. I think just look what he's done already. Just with a press conference in his presence.
Right.
I think he's going to spark that entire organization up, and I think he's going to bring him to a whole different level.
Let me get your take on Eddie, because there were stories about possibly him getting back in the National Football League with a particular franchise. Would the owners welcome him back? Would they vote him back in if he so desired?
It's my opinion that the owners would welcome him back. They would have welcomed him back if there was an opportunity to repurchase the 49ers. And we know that, although it wasn't publicized, but we were told there's a green light if you want to go forward there. So it's not a matter of will he be welcomed back by the NFL. I think it's more a matter of does Eddie really want to get back in the game?
Does he?
I don't know. Things have changed.
If Eddie picked up the phone and called you, hey, Carmen, I got an in on this football team. You ready to do it again?
As long as I don't have to work 7 days a week.
yeah, and 14 hours a day.
Yeah, I'm
right?
hanging with him
right?
now.
Okay,
yeah,
Carmen, always appreciate the few minutes we can spend together, and good luck. How's the wine, by the way?
The wine is excellent. I have to be honest with you. Our Casa Piana Cabernet Sauvignon from our vineyard in Yountville is really killer Cabernet. It's a little expensive.
Yeah. You didn't bring a bottle for me.
I did bring a bottle for you. After you're off the air, of course.
This interview's over. Carmen, thanks.
Thank you.
I did get to sample that wine. It's pretty darn good. Carmen Policy, appreciate a few minutes.